All right, let's jump right in. Today, we are diving deep into consultative selling. Think of this as a masterclass on a really powerful approach that completely shifts the game from just making a sale to building a real long term advisory relationship. So here's the game plan. We've got 5 key parts. We're going to start with the why, the whole philosophy behind this. Then we'll get into the how, the actual skills you need, like discovery and building trust. After that, we'll cover how to implement it, what pitfalls to watch out for, and finally, we'll look at some real-world examples. Okay, so first things first. What is the big idea here? What's the philosophy? Well, it's a huge paradigm shift in how we even think about selling. So where did this whole idea come from? You can think a guy named Mac Hanan, way back in 1970. The core concept is to elevate the salesperson from just being, a vendor into an expert consultant, a trusted advisor who is way more focused on the client's long-term success than on just making a quick, high-pressure sale. And I love this analogy. It's just perfect. The doctor of selling. See, a traditional salesperson kind of just walks in and immediately prescribes their product without really digging into the problem. But a consultative advisor, they act like a doctor. They run a full diagnosis to figure out the client's deepest pain points before they even think about recommending a solution. The focus totally shifts from the transaction to the client's transformation. So that brings us right to the most critical skill in this whole playbook, strategic discovery and diagnosis. This is where the magic happens. The sales legend Brian Tracy just nails it with this quote. Your real power isn't in your pitch, it's not in what you say, it's in your ability to ask the right questions. This is how you uncover the real value for your customer. And your primary tools for this are open-ended questions. We're not talking about simple yes or no questions here. These are conversation starters. Who else on the team is affected by this problem? What have you already tried to fix this? How would this work in an ideal world? Questions like these get the prospect to really open up and show you what their true challenges are. And here's a golden nugget for you. The single most powerful, all-purpose clarification question you can ask is just 3 simple words. How do you mean? When a prospect says something vague or raises an objection, asking this forces them to pause, reflect, and expand on what they're really thinking. It's an incredible tool. Now, here is the ultimate test to see if you're truly listening. After the client shares something important, you just paraphrase it back to them. Something like, okay, so if I'm hearing you right, the main issue is X, and that's causing you problem Y. Is that correct? This simple move is like white magic. It confirms you understand, and more importantly, it proves to them that you are 100% locked in on them and their problem. Okay, so once you've achieved that deep level of understanding, the next logical step is to build a rock-solid foundation of trust. Because honestly, without trust, that amazing diagnosis you just did means absolutely nothing. Stephen Covey just hit the nail on the head here. Trust is literally everything. Until a prospect genuinely believes you have their best interests at heart, they're never going to be fully open to your recommendations, no matter how brilliant they are. So here's a powerful way to build that trust fast. You've got to adapt to their communication style. Are they an analyzer who needs all the data and logic? Or maybe a driver who only cares about the bottom line? A relator who values that personal connection? Or a socializer who loves the big ideas? When you mirror their style, you build rapport so much faster because people naturally trust people who are like them. With that trust in place, it's time to build what we call the value bridge. It's a simple 3-step process. Step 1, you've already done it. You've found their most intense, burning need. Step 2 is where you connect your solution as the direct answer to that specific need. And then step 3, you demonstrate the outcome. You'd have to explicitly answer their unspoken question, what's in it for me? Okay, let's get practical. How do we actually put all this into action? And maybe more importantly, what are the common traps we need to make sure we sidestep? And this matrix, man, it just lays it all out so clearly. Look at the difference here. The goal shifts from transactions to transformation. The strategy goes from just pushing products to actually solving problems. Communication changes from a one-way monologue to a two-way dialogue. And the focus, and this is crucial, moves from product features to measurable outcomes. So where do you start? First, get your sales and marketing teams on the same page, unified around the same goals. Second, map out the entire decision path. Who are all the stakeholders, not just your main contact? Third,
Give the 20 idea method a shot. Every day, just jot down 20 ideas on how to better serve your customers. And fourth, use what are called trial closes. Little check-in questions like, does this make sense so far? To make sure you're both on the same page.
Okay, first big mistake you absolutely have to avoid: feature dumping. This is when you get lost talking about all the technical specs of what your product is. Look, the customer doesn't really care about that. They only care about what your product does for them. It's always about the outcome. Now, this one might sound small, but psychologically, it's huge. Never, ever try to close a high-value deal while you're both standing up. A buyer needs to be seated, comfortable, and in a mental space where they can actually reflect on the value versus the price. You have to create the right environment for a serious decision. And finally, you have to beware the callback trap. When a prospect says, "Let me think it over and get back to you," that's almost always a red flag. It means you failed to build enough value or to create a strong enough emotional reason for them to act now. It's a symptom of a gap in your process, not the next step. All right, to wrap this all up, let's look at a few examples of this in the wild and really reflect on the core mindset that makes this whole thing work. So how does this actually look in the real world? Well, take a look at companies like RodRadar. They use ROI calculators to prove the financial outcome right up front. Or Microsoft. They're shifting to membership models, which frames them as an ongoing partner, not just a one-time vendor. And Pardot, which is part of Salesforce, uses automated content drips to educate clients and build their authority long before a salesperson ever even gets on the phone. This quote just perfectly captures the soul of this whole methodology. The goal isn't to sell something to someone. The goal is to serve them, to solve their problems. And when you do that, you earn their business as a natural result. And Seth Godin reminds us that there's a higher purpose here. As consultative advisors, we are agents of change. We're in the business of helping our clients move from where they are now, a painful state, to where they want to be, which is a much better future state. And we'll end on this really profound thought from the one and only Peter Drucker. Because this, right here, is the ultimate goal. When you truly master consultative selling, you understand the customer so deeply, so intimately, that your solution is such a perfect fit that it doesn't even feel like a sale. It just feels like the obvious, natural, and logical next step.